So you are a new game master, and you have been told that you have to bring your setting to life for your players. But what does that really mean, and can you actually do it? Some game masters, at the start of a campaign in that first session, they'll open it up by telling players stuff, much of it their characters might not know. It will be information about that setting, that world. And they hope by doing that it will bring the setting to life for the players. From what I have experienced, that doesn't work. It doesn't really work at all. Players will try to take that information in and use it, but it doesn't work. And we will get to why that is. But first, I would say this. Don't do that to open up your game. Any setting information like that, you should put it in the pitch for the game. When you go to pitch the game at players, this should be part of the pitch. Here's the setting. Here's what you need to know. Do you want to join? It is a more basic approach. It's actually easier to do that than trying to open up the first session by giving out a bunch of information and slamming that into the players' minds. In most cases, you're simply overloading the player. To get the imagination running, you need to give just enough information to get it moving forward. Too much shuts it down. Not enough keeps it where it's at without moving forward. There is a middle ground, and the reason you don't want to give too much information is the less a player has, the more they have to work their mind, the more that motor runs, the more they work the imagination and try to paint all the gaps in for themselves. So overloading the players' minds as they go into a session is not good. That is why slamming information at the start of a campaign into the players' heads as they go to start playing isn't good. It doesn't really work. Putting information into that pitch about the setting, it is more subtle, and it gets the players to start thinking with their imagination about the world, about the setting that you're trying to offer them. And that simple approach does way more work than what you might believe. In reality, to truly communicate an entire setting to a player is only really accomplished when that player has played multiple characters, been in different areas of the world, because each area may be different, it may vary, one setting is not all one thing. So realistically, all you can really communicate about the setting is all localized. In the area the characters are in, you can communicate some of the overall setting to them, but you'll also be communicating the town, you know what I mean? The area itself. It might be unique compared to the rest of the setting. The characters will learn more about the localized area around them, and they'll experience more of that than they will the overall setting. So, trying to bring the setting to life through one campaign, through one adventure, through one set of characters is likely not realistic. It's not a goal that you can really achieve. But you can bring the local area to life. But I warn you, if you run a simple game where most of the time everybody does automatic things in the town and there's no real role play, and then you get them on the road, there might be an interaction with maybe a merchant, and then a combat encounter, then they hit a dungeon or a tower, they meet the big bad, and the adventure is over. You are not bringing any setting to life under those conditions. And how do you bring an area to life? How do you bring a town to life? How do you do that for your players? Well, first, they know a bit about the setting that they read in the pitch, so they know it's medieval or whatever it is. So you don't need to describe every building that the players see with their characters. But you should roleplay. Let them walk around the town with their characters, meet non-player characters, and then use those non-player characters to talk about the world, about the localized area, the NPCs. They're going to help you bring the world to life. But if you skip that, if you make everything automatic, so you just ask the player what their character buys for the merchant, and you don't bother having an interaction, there's no dialogue, well then that merchant can't say anything about the place, the town, the setting, to the character. That's not happening. And there are many game masters that do that, and they hope that upfront pitch takes care of everything, so they don't have to allow you to walk around the town with your character and do dialogue with non-player characters. The best way to bring anything to life, the setting, the town, whatever, is to allow players to interact with it with their characters, and not interact like automatically buying the items without the dialogue, right? No, we're not going to just jump to the road and go to the dungeon. We're going to stop and talk to people and get to know the place and be here for a while and experience. That is how you bring a setting to life. That is how you bring the localized area to life. So make sure you're open to role play. Make sure that you allow your players to have their characters actually interact with things like in the town, not just worry about getting them to the dungeon or the tower. And don't try to cheap out on doing that by feeding information that's overloaded on the players at the start of a campaign. You may get lucky with players wanting to learn more about the world through research. Maybe they want to go to a library. Hey, you can use that to communicate more information. You could even have non-player characters hint to the characters that might be something wise to do. Go research about the area. But either way, to bring anything to life is really to allow the players with their characters to interact with the world. And when you bypass role-playing, when you bypass a lot of that stuff, you're not bringing anything to life. If you're just doing an adventure to a dungeon or a tower, it doesn't really matter if you tell your players they're in the Forgotten Realms or in Greyhawk. It really doesn't matter. It only matters if you allow them first, before the dungeon, to interact with the world. Okay, I hope that helps. For now, take care.